The alarm systems on the Imperial monitoring station screamed into the silence of space. Commander Vextar rushed from his rest quarters to the command center, his three eyes widening as he saw the readings on the main display. Something massive was approaching Imperial territory, and it was moving in a way that made no sense. "Report," Vextar demanded, settling into his command chair. The young sensor technician named Yule looked up from his station, his face showing confusion. "Commander, we detected a gravitational distortion approximately 2 hours ago. The object is 3 kilometers in length and moving at 0.7 light speed." Vextar frowned. "What species? What empire?" Yule's hands moved across his console, pulling up more data. "That is the problem, Commander. The energy signature does not match anything in our databases. The propulsion system appears to be fusion-based." Several officers in the command center laughed. Fusion drives had not been used by any civilized species for over 10,000 years. They were primitive, inefficient, and completely outdated. No one who possessed faster-than-light travel would ever use such ancient technology. "Check your sensors again," Vextar ordered. "They must be malfunctioning." Yule ran the diagnostics 3 times. Each time, the results came back the same. The approaching vessel was using fusion engines combined with something else, something their computers could not identify. The mix of old and unknown technology created a puzzle that the Empire's advanced systems could not solve. As the unknown ship drew closer, the station's computers worked to gather more information. The hull composition analysis came back with results that made even less sense than the propulsion readings. The ship was built from titanium steel alloys, layered ceramic composites, and what appeared to be ablative armor plating. These were materials that primitive species used before they discovered energy shielding. "This must be some kind of colony ship," suggested the tactical officer. "Perhaps a generation vessel from a pre-FTL species that somehow stumbled into our territory." Vextar considered this explanation. It made some sense. Occasionally, primitive species would launch slow-moving colony ships before they developed proper faster-than-light drives. Maybe this vessel had been traveling for centuries and only now reached Imperial space. "Send standard first contact protocols," Vextar commanded. "All 7 primary languages. Inform them they have entered Galactic Empire territory and must submit to inspection." The communications officer transmitted the message. The waiting period stretched for several minutes. Then the response came back. Audio only, in a language that sounded harsh and unfamiliar. The computer's translation system activated, searching through its massive database of known languages. Finally, it found matches. The ship was transmitting in 2 languages identified as Korean and English. The computer displayed additional information that made everyone in the command center freeze. These languages belonged to a species called humans from a planet designated as Earth. According to Imperial survey records, humans had been catalogued just 200 years ago as a pre-spaceflight civilization. They should not have faster-than-light travel. They should still be confined to their home planet, possibly their home star system at most. "This is impossible," Vextar said quietly. The translated message played through the speakers. A male voice, calm and professional, spoke clearly. "This is Captain Minho of the Terran exploration vessel Taejo. We are on a peaceful mission to explore this region of space. We were not aware this territory was claimed. We request permission to proceed through this sector." Vextar accessed the records on humanity. The files showed images of the species: bipedal, 2 eyes, hair on their heads, appearing similar to several other species in the galaxy. The records noted they were technologically primitive, but showed signs of rapid development. The surveyor who had visited their system 2 centuries ago had recommended monitoring them, but concluded they would not achieve FTL travel for at least 500 more years. How did they do this? Yule wondered aloud. No one had an answer. Species did not jump from primitive to spacefaring in just 200 years. It took thousands of years of development, of slowly building knowledge and technology. Even the Empire, with all its resources and knowledge, had taken millennia to reach its current level. "Magnify visual," Vextar ordered. The main screen shifted to show the approaching vessel. The ship was enormous, easily 3 kilometers from bow to stern. Its design was unlike anything in Imperial records. Where Imperial ships were smooth and elegant, this human vessel looked aggressive and functional. It bristled with what appeared to be weapons platforms, sensor arrays, and communication dishes. The hull showed no decorative elements, no artistic flourishes. Everything on the ship seemed to serve a specific purpose. "Send another message," Vextar said. "Inform them they must halt immediately and prepare to be boarded for inspection." "This is not a request." The communications officer transmitted the order. The human ship continued its approach without slowing. Several tense minutes passed before the response came. Captain Minho's voice remained calm but carried an edge of steel. "Captain Vextar, we appreciate your position, but we must decline. The Tejo is a sovereign vessel of the Terran government. We will not submit to boarding. However, we are willing to transmit technical data about our ship and our mission to demonstrate our peaceful intentions." Vexitar's scales rippled with irritation. Primitive species did not refuse imperial orders. They certainly did not do so with such casual confidence. "Tactical, prepare a warning shot," Vextar commanded. "Fire across their bow. Show them we are serious." The station's plasma batteries powered up, their distinctive whine filling the command center. The weapons officer locked onto a point 50 kilometers ahead of the human vessel and fired. A bolt of superheated plasma shot through space, passing in front of the Tejo. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the human ship's exterior suddenly blazed with light. An energy shield snapped into existence around the entire vessel, glowing with a blue-white color that the sensors had never recorded before. The shield's power readings were incredible, far stronger than anything a ship that size should be able to generate. "Impossible," Vextar whispered. The shield technology was completely unknown. It did not match any Empire design or any design from the other major powers in the galaxy. The humans had developed their own shielding system from scratch, and from the readings it appeared to be extremely effective. Another message came from the Tejo. Captain Minho's voice had lost its diplomatic warmth. "Commander Vextar, that was a hostile action. Our shields interpreted your plasma discharge as an attack. I strongly recommend against any further aggressive moves. We do not want conflict, but the Tejo is fully capable of defending itself." Yule looked up from his sensors, his face pale. "Commander, I am detecting weapon systems activating on the human vessel. I count 47 separate weapons platforms. Most of them appear to be kinetic in nature. Rail-based acceleration systems, possibly magnetic. Kinetic weapons. The Empire had not used kinetic weapons in warfare for thousands of years. Energy weapons were superior in almost every way, easier to aim, faster to fire, and more efficient. But as Vextar stared at the sensor readings, he realized something troubling. The station's shields were designed to deflect energy weapons. They had never been tested against solid projectiles moving at high velocity. "Open a channel," Vextar said slowly. "Captain Minho, there appears to have been a misunderstanding. The Galactic Empire welcomes all peaceful explorers. However, your presence here raises many questions. I am requesting that you maintain your current position while I contact my superiors. They will want to establish formal first contact protocols." A pause, then Minho responded. "Understood, Commander. The Tejo will hold position. We await further communication." Vexitar immediately sent an emergency message to Imperial Command. The message was simple but urgent. Humans had achieved FTL travel centuries ahead of schedule, possessed unknown shield technology and weapon systems, and showed no fear of Imperial authority. As he waited for a response, Vextar stared at the image of the human warship on his screen. The primitive species from the edge of explored space had built something that worried him deeply. The question that kept running through his mind was simple and terrifying. What else had those humans built? Fleet Admiral Cormath arrived at the border station with 12 Imperial warships, the kind of force that had conquered entire star systems. His flagship, the Eternal Dominion, was a massive dreadnought that carried enough firepower to reduce planets to ash. He reviewed the reports from Commander Vexitar with growing disbelief and anger. Humans were not supposed to be here. They were primitives, barely worth cataloging. Yet somehow they had built a vessel that matched Imperial technology and showed no respect for Imperial authority. This could not stand. The Empire's reputation depended on swift, decisive responses to any challenge. "Scan the human vessel again," Cormath ordered. "I want to know every detail." His science officer worked quickly, directing the fleet's advanced sensors toward the Tejo. The results confirmed what Vextar had reported. The ship used fusion engines combined with some form of antimatter reaction. The design was crude but effective. The shields were strange, operating on principles the Empire had never seen. The weapons were primitive kinetic accelerators. They must have stolen technology from someone, Cormath concluded. No species develops FTL travel this quickly on their own. His tactical officer pulled up the timeline. Admiral, according to Imperial surveys, humans were still fighting wars with chemical rockets and nuclear weapons 200 years ago. Now they have this. Cormath studied the image of the human ship. It looked dangerous despite its primitive technology. Or perhaps because of it, there was something aggressive about the design. Something that suggested violence and capability. The ship did not look like an explorer. It looked like a weapon. Open a channel to their captain, Cormath commanded. The communication system connected to the Taejo. A human face appeared on the screen. Captain Minho looked young by the standards of most species, with dark hair and calm eyes that studied Cormath carefully. He showed no fear, no nervousness at facing an Imperial fleet. "I am Fleet Admiral Cormath of the Galactic Empire," Cormath said formally. "You have entered Imperial territory without permission. You will submit to inspection immediately or you will be disabled and boarded by force." Minho sat back in his chair. Behind him, Cormath could see other humans working at various stations. They all wore identical dark blue uniforms and moved with military precision. This was not a civilian exploration vessel. This was a warship with a trained crew. "Admiral Cormath," Minho replied calmly. "I am Captain Minho of the Terran vessel Taejo. We had no knowledge that this region of space was claimed by any government. We entered this area during our exploration mission. We mean no disrespect to the Galactic Empire, but we will not submit to boarding. The Taejo is a sovereign vessel." Cormath felt his anger rising. "You are in no position to refuse, Captain. You have one ship. I have 12. Surrender now or face the consequences." Minho glanced at someone off-screen, then looked back at Cormath. "Admiral, I understand your position, but I must inform you that the Taejo is not alone. You might want to check your sensors." Cormath's tactical officer suddenly spoke up, his voice tight with alarm. "Admiral, we have new contacts. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL. I count 7 vessels, all approximately the same size as the first human ship. The main display updated to show the new arrivals. 7 more human warships had appeared in perfect formation around the Taejo. They spread out in a pattern that showed clear tactical thinking, positioning themselves to create overlapping fields of fire while covering each other's vulnerable areas. "Identification," Cormath demanded. The computer listed the names as they came in from the human ship's transponders. Sejong, Gwangeto, Yulji, Dosan, Chungmagong, Wanhyo, and Gibak. 8 human warships total, each bristling with weapons and protected by those strange shields. How did they coordinate that arrival? The tactical officer wondered. The timing was perfect. They all appeared within seconds of each other. Cormath studied the formation. It was good, very good. It showed understanding of fleet tactics that should have taken centuries to develop. The humans had positioned their ships to support each other while making it difficult for the Imperial fleet to target them all effectively. "Captain Minho," Cormath said slowly, "you were expecting us." "We detected your fleet's approach 3 hours ago," Minho confirmed. "We called for support. Admiral Yunji is in command of our task force. I believe she would like to speak with you." Another face appeared on the screen, replacing Minho. This human was female, older than Minho, with short hair and eyes that looked like they had seen many battles. She wore more insignia on her uniform, marking her as a senior officer. "Admiral Cormath," she said, her voice crisp and professional. "I am Admiral Yunji, commanding the Terran Exploration Fleet. I understand there has been a misunderstanding about territorial boundaries. We are prepared to discuss this matter diplomatically. However, I want to be absolutely clear. We will not surrender our ships or our people. Is that understood?" Cormath assessed the situation. He still had numerical superiority, 12 ships to 8. His vessels were larger and carried more firepower. But those human shields worried him, and those kinetic weapons were an unknown factor. A battle might be costly. "Admiral Yunji, you are in violation of Imperial law. These systems belong to the Empire." "We see no settlements, no stations, no infrastructure," Yunji replied. "These systems appear to be unclaimed. We have maps showing all known territorial boundaries in this region. None of them indicate Imperial presence here. The Empire claims all systems within 1,000 light-years of our core territories," Cormath stated. Yunji raised an eyebrow. "That is a very large claim, Admiral. Does the Empire have the resources to patrol and defend such a vast area? It was a pointed question. The truth was that the Empire claimed far more territory than it could effectively control. There were thousands of systems on the maps that no Imperial ship had visited in decades. But admitting that would show weakness. "Test their defenses," Cormeth ordered quietly to his weapons officer. "Electromagnetic pulse weapons. Disable their systems without destroying them." His flagship and 3 cruisers fired simultaneously. Powerful electromagnetic pulses crossed the distance to the nearest human ships. The pulses were designed to overload computer systems and disable electronics without causing physical damage. It was a standard Imperial tactic for dealing with primitive vessels. The human shields flared bright blue as the pulses hit them. Then something unexpected happened. The shields held, and the human ship's systems remained fully operational. Warning lights started flashing on Cormeth's tactical display. "Admiral, the human vessels are powering weapons," his tactical officer reported. "Multiple targeting locks on our ships. They are preparing to fire." "Impossible," Cormeth said. "The EMP should have disabled their computers." The science officer spoke up quickly. "Admiral, I am detecting heavy shielding around their computer systems. Faraday cages, redundant systems, hardened circuits. Their electronics are protected against electromagnetic attack." Cormeth realized his mistake. Humans had developed on a planet where they fought wars against each other. They understood electromagnetic warfare because they had used it against themselves. Their systems were designed to survive attacks that the Empire had not faced in thousands of years. "Incoming fire," the tactical officer warned. The human ships fired their railguns. Solid tungsten rods, each one weighing several tons, accelerated to incredible velocities. They crossed the distance in seconds. The Imperial shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, barely slowed the projectiles. 2 of Cormeth's destroyers took direct hits. The kinetic impacts tore through their hulls, causing massive damage. Alarms screamed across the fleet. Both damaged destroyers were venting atmosphere and losing power. They had not been destroyed, but they were effectively out of the fight. "All ships, return fire," Cormeth ordered. The Imperial fleet's plasma batteries opened up, filling space with deadly energy. But the human ships were already moving, executing evasive maneuvers that showed practiced skill. Their formation shifted and flowed, ships covering each other as they dodged incoming fire. The few shots that connected splashed against those blue shields, which held firm. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet," the communications officer said. Admiral Yunji's face reappeared on the screen. She did not look angry or triumphant. She looked tired and sad. "Admiral Cormeth, this is pointless. We do not want war with the Galactic Empire. We came here to explore, to learn, to find new friends among the stars. But we will defend ourselves. Every human ship has weapons that can damage your vessels. Every human crew is trained and ready. Stop this now before more people die." Cormeth looked at his tactical display. 2 of his ships were disabled. The human fleet remained fully operational and was demonstrating superior maneuverability. His numerical advantage meant less when the enemy could shoot solid projectiles through his shields. "Cease fire," he ordered quietly. "All ships, cease fire." The plasma batteries went silent. The human ships stopped their evasive maneuvers but kept their weapons powered and ready. "We came in peace," Yunji said, her voice carrying across the empty space between the fleets. "We are prepared for war. Choose wisely, Admiral." Cormeth stared at the 8 human warships on his screen. Somewhere in the back of his mind, a disturbing thought formed. If humans could build 8 warships this capable in just 2 centuries of spaceflight, how many more did they have? How many more could they build? "Withdraw to defensive formation," he ordered his fleet. "Maintain distance and monitor the human vessels." As his ships pulled back, Cormeth opened a priority channel to Imperial Command. The message he sent was simple but carried enormous implications. Humanity was not a primitive species anymore. They were a potential threat, one that could challenge the Empire itself. The question now was what the Empire would do about it. The Galactic Empire's High Council chamber was enormous, designed to intimidate visitors and remind everyone of the Empire's power. Today, the council members sat in emergency session, reviewing reports from the border encounter with the human fleet. The mood was tense and divided. Councillor Thexarin stood before the assembled members, his multiple arms gesturing at the holographic display showing the damaged Imperial destroyers. "The facts are clear. This species, which we catalogued as primitive just 2 centuries ago, now possesses faster-than-light travel, energy shields, and weapons that bypass our defenses. This is unprecedented in galactic history. Councillor Vormak, a conservative voice on the council, slammed his appendage on the table. Then we must act immediately. If humans are this dangerous now, they will be unstoppable in another 2 centuries. We should mobilize the full Imperial fleet and eliminate this threat before it grows. Eliminate an entire species because we are afraid of them? Councillor Ralphie asked calmly. She was one of the younger members, known for progressive views. Is that who the Empire has become? The Empire has survived for 15,000 years by responding decisively to threats, Vormak countered. These humans have already demonstrated they will fight us. Admiral Cormeth's report confirms they disabled 2 of our vessels without hesitation. Thexarin pulled up more data. Admiral Cormeth also confirms that the humans fired only after he attacked them with electromagnetic pulse weapons. They were defending themselves, not initiating aggression. The argument continued for hours. Some council members wanted immediate military action. Others urged caution and diplomacy. A few suggested ignoring the humans entirely, hoping they would remain in their corner of space. But everyone agreed on one thing: humanity's rapid advancement was deeply troubling. Imperial Intelligence Director Zal Keth had been sitting quietly, reviewing information on her personal display. Now she stood, and the council chamber fell silent. Zalketh rarely spoke at council meetings, but when she did, people listened. I have been studying everything we know about humans, she began. Their transmissions, their history, their culture. What I have found is more disturbing than their weapons technology. She activated a new display showing images from Earth's history. Humans evolved on a planet with multiple competing civilizations. They spent thousands of years fighting each other. Wars over territory, resources, religion, ideology. They developed increasingly sophisticated weapons and used them constantly. Many species have violent histories, Vormak said dismissively. Not like this, Zalketh replied. Most species fight until one group dominates, then they unify and advance. Humans fought each other continuously for thousands of years while simultaneously advancing their technology. They built nuclear weapons and immediately used them on each other. Then they built enough nuclear weapons to destroy their entire planet multiple times. They lived under the threat of total annihilation for decades. The council members shifted uncomfortably. The idea of a species so comfortable with mutual destruction was alien to most galactic civilizations. It gets stranger, Zalketh continued. During this period of potential self-destruction, they also began space exploration. They went to their moon while still pointing weapons of mass destruction at each other. They built space stations while preparing for global war. The contradiction is almost incomprehensible. She pulled up more images. Look at their entertainment. They create fiction about war, survival, conflict. They have thousands of stories about fighting aliens, fighting each other, overcoming impossible odds. They call it entertainment. They enjoy stories about violence and struggle. What is your point, Director? Thexarin asked. My point is that humans did not steal their technology from anyone, Zalketh said firmly. They developed everything themselves. They are culturally adapted to rapid innovation under pressure. Every problem they encounter, they solve by building something new. War drives their advancement. Struggle makes them stronger. She displayed technical schematics of the human ships. Look at their design philosophy. Imperial ships are beautiful, elegant, efficient. Human ships are functional, redundant, armored. They design for survival in combat because combat is what they know. Their shields are hardened against electromagnetic weapons because they used electromagnetic weapons on themselves. Their computers are protected because they know how to attack computers. They are warriors, Ralphie said quietly. They are survivors, Zalketh corrected, and that makes them more dangerous than warriors. A warrior culture fights for honor or glory. Humans fight to survive, and they fight with every tool available. Vormak considered this information. Then my position stands. We cannot allow such a species to spread unchecked. Can we stop them? Ralphie asked. Director, give us your honest assessment. If the Empire goes to war with humanity, what happens? Zalketh was quiet for a long moment. We would probably win. The Empire has thousands of worlds, millions of ships, resources beyond measure. Humanity has perhaps a few dozen ships and one home system, but the cost would be enormous. Humans do not surrender easily. They would fight to the last person, and every battle would be costly. She pulled up casualty projections. Furthermore, a war with humanity would signal to other species that the Empire eliminates any potential rivals. That could destabilize the entire galactic order. Species currently under Imperial protection might seek independence. Our enemies might see it as an opportunity to challenge us. Meanwhile, in the human fleet, Admiral Yunji sat in her command chair aboard the Sejong. Around her, the bridge crew worked quietly, monitoring Imperial communications and tracking ship movements. They were deep in Imperial space now, surrounded by potential enemies, but everyone remained calm and focused. Communications Officer Daehyun looked up from his station. "Admiral, we are intercepting some interesting transmissions. The Imperial Council is arguing about what to do with us. Some want war, some want peace, some want to ignore us." "Expected," Yunji replied. "We are a problem they have never encountered before." "Anything from our intelligence network?" Science Officer Nari pulled up data on her screen. "I have been analyzing Imperial technology based on our scans. It is more advanced than ours in many areas, particularly energy generation and faster-than-light efficiency. But there is something interesting. Their basic designs have not changed significantly in thousands of years." "Explain," Yunji ordered. "They make incremental improvements," Nari said. "Better power cores, more efficient shields, stronger weapons. But the fundamental technology remains the same. They are not innovating. They are optimizing." Yunji considered this. "They are comfortable. They have been the dominant power for so long they stopped questioning their assumptions." "Exactly," Nari agreed. "We innovate constantly because we have to. We went from chemical rockets to antimatter drives in 200 years because we pushed ourselves. The Empire has had antimatter technology for 10,000 years and barely improved it. The Empire sent an ambassador under a flag of truce. Ambassador Texaval was a career diplomat, experienced in first-contact situations. He had dealt with primitive species before, guiding them into the galactic community. He expected humans to be similar, grateful for Imperial guidance and willing to accept their proper place. He boarded the Taijo with a security detail. Captain Minho met him at the airlock, extending his hand in the human greeting gesture. Texaval studied the human captain carefully. Minho appeared relaxed and confident, showing no signs of intimidation. The tour of the ship surprised Texaval. He had expected primitive conditions, crude facilities, obvious limitations. Instead, he found a vessel that seamlessly blended function with aesthetics. The corridors were well lit and clean. The crew quarters were comfortable. The bridge was a marvel of organized efficiency, with each station optimized for its purpose. "Your ship is impressive," Texaval admitted as they sat in Minho's ready room. "I must confess I did not expect such sophistication." "Thank you," Minho replied. "We put a lot of work into the design. The Taijo is our first deep space exploration vessel, so we wanted to get it right." "Your first?" Texaval was surprised. "You built this level of capability on your first attempt?" "We had practice with smaller vessels," Minho explained. "Ships for our home system, then ships for nearby systems. We learned from each generation and applied those lessons to the next design." They discussed humanity's goals and intentions. Minho was clear. Humans wanted to explore, establish colonies, make contact with other species, and trade. They had no interest in conquering anyone or threatening the Empire. "But you are prepared for war," Texaval observed. "We are prepared to defend ourselves," Minho corrected. "There is a difference. We hope for peace, but we plan for conflict. It is how humans have always survived." What disturbed Texaval most was learning about human culture. Minho showed him examples of human entertainment, stories about exploring space, encountering aliens, fighting wars among the stars. There were thousands of such stories, spanning multiple genres and formats. "You create fiction about violence and conflict?" Texaval asked. "We create fiction about many things," Minho said. "But yes, conflict is a common theme. It helps us process our fears, explore moral questions, and prepare mentally for challenges." "Most species find violence disturbing," Texaval said carefully. "We do too," Minho assured him. "But we acknowledge it as part of existence. Pretending violence does not exist does not make it go away. Better to understand it, prepare for it, and work to prevent it." The conversation lasted for hours. By the end, Texaval understood that humans were not like any species the Empire had encountered before. They combined sophisticated civilization with a warrior's mentality. They valued peace but prepared for war. They sought friendship but demanded respect. Texival returned to the Empire with his report and a message from Admiral Yunji. Humanity wished to establish formal diplomatic relations and trade agreements. They would share some technology and knowledge. But if the Empire chose hostility, humanity had 30 more warships under construction in their home system. The crews were volunteers, eager to explore the galaxy but equally ready to defend human territory. The High Council received this message with mixed reactions. Some saw it as a threat. Others saw it as an opportunity. All recognized that the galaxy had changed. Humanity had arrived and they were not going away. The question now was whether the Empire would accept humans as neighbors and potential allies, or whether they would try to eliminate this new threat. The decision would shape the future of the entire galaxy. The High Council's debates continued for weeks. The progressive faction, led by Councillor Ralphie, argued that humanity could become a valuable ally. Their innovative approach to technology could benefit the entire Empire. Their fresh perspective might solve problems that had stalled for centuries. Working with humans made more sense than fighting them. The conservative faction, led by Councillor Vormak, saw only danger. Allowing humans to spread unchecked would lead to them dominating the galaxy within a few generations. Better to eliminate the threat now while it was still manageable. The Empire had survived for 15,000 years by maintaining absolute superiority over all potential rivals. Military advisor Krentok provided analysis that satisfied neither faction. A war with humanity is winnable but costly. They have superior defensive technology in some areas, and weapons designed to counter our standard tactics. Our advantage is in numbers and resources, but humans have shown they do not fear death the way most species do. Every battle would be bloody. While the Empire debated, humanity did not wait for permission. Survey ships began mapping nearby star systems, identifying viable planets and resource-rich asteroids. Colony vessels launched from Earth, Mars, and the growing orbital facilities around Jupiter's moons. Each ship carried thousands of colonists and everything needed to establish new settlements. Trade missions reached out to independent species on the Empire's periphery. These were civilizations that existed within the Empire's claimed territory, but maintained their own governments. They paid tribute to the Empire in exchange for protection and access to imperial trade networks. Many resented this arrangement but had no choice. When human traders arrived offering fair exchange with no tribute required, many independent species were interested. The humans brought technology that was different from imperial designs, sometimes simpler but often more practical. They offered defensive pacts, promising to help protect smaller species from pirates and raiders. Ambassador Heon, a human diplomat who had studied galactic politics intensely, successfully negotiated humanity's first formal alliance with the Talran Republic. The Talran were a peaceful species that had chafed under imperial oversight for generations. They saw humans as kindred spirits, newcomers to the galactic stage who refused to accept the existing power structure. The alliance sent shockwaves through imperial space. If humans could convince one species to side with them, they could convince others. The Empire's control had always depended on being the only viable protector and trade partner. Now there was an alternative. Not all Imperial officers waited for the High Council to make decisions. Admiral Kexivar commanded a border fleet and had built his career on aggressive actions against pirates and rebels. He saw the human expansion as an invasion that demanded immediate response. When the Council proved unable to agree on policy, Kexivar decided to act. He gathered a strike force of 12 ships and identified a target, the human colony on New Jeju, one of the first settlements humanity had established outside their home system. Intelligence reports indicated the colony was lightly defended, with only a single frigate providing protection. Kexivar planned to destroy the colony and blame it on raiders. Without proof of Imperial involvement, humans would have no justification for war, and the attack would demonstrate that human expansion had consequences. The strike force arrived at New Jeju expecting an easy victory. The colony world appeared before them, a blue-green planet in the early stages of terraforming. Orbital scans detected several thousand humans on the surface, building settlements and establishing infrastructure. Target the orbital facilities first, Kexivar ordered. Then the surface settlements. Make it look like a pirate raid gone wrong. As his ships moved into attack formation, the single human frigate defending the colony powered up its systems. The vessel was named Incheon, and its captain was a woman named Bowman. She had served in the Terran Space Navy for 15 years, starting as an engineer and working her way up to command. "This is Captain Bauman of the Terran frigate Incheon," she transmitted to the Imperial fleet. "You are approaching a sovereign human colony. State your intentions immediately." Kexavar did not bother responding. His ships opened fire with plasma batteries, targeting the Incheon and the orbital construction platforms. The frigate's shields flared as plasma bolts struck home, but they held. Bauman had been expecting trouble. "All weapons return fire," she ordered calmly. "Target their lead cruiser. Activate the orbital defense network." The Incheon fired its railguns, solid projectiles accelerating to incredible velocity. 2 shots struck Kexavar's flagship, punching through shields that were not designed to stop kinetic impacts. The damage was significant but not critical. What surprised Kexavar was what happened next. Dozens of objects in orbit around New Jeju suddenly activated. They had appeared on scans as simple communications satellites and sensor platforms. Now they revealed their true nature as weapons platforms, each one equipped with magnetic railguns. "Orbital defense grid online," Bowman's tactical officer reported. 48 platforms ready to fire. The platforms fired in coordinated volleys, each one targeting a different Imperial ship. The attack came from multiple angles simultaneously, making it impossible for the Imperial fleet to defend effectively. Their shields, designed to face enemies coming from one direction, failed to stop projectiles arriving from above, below, and all sides. 3 Imperial cruisers took catastrophic damage in the first 30 seconds of combat. Their hulls breached, systems failed, and crews scrambled for escape pods. Kexavar realized too late that he had walked into a trap. The humans had weaponized their infrastructure, turning simple satellites into a coordinated defense network. "Evasive maneuvers," he ordered. "All ships scatter." But the Imperial formation was designed for overwhelming force against weaker opponents, not for fighting a distributed defensive network. As the ships tried to scatter, they ran into overlapping fields of fire. The Incheon used hit-and-run tactics, firing from unexpected angles and using the planet's gravity well to execute maneuvers that Imperial ships could not match. Captain Bowman had studied every available record of Imperial fleet tactics. She knew how they fought, what formations they used, how they responded to different situations. She had prepared for this exact scenario, running simulations with her crew until everyone knew their role perfectly. The battle lasted 40 minutes. By the end, 5 of Kexavar's ships were destroyed, 4 were disabled, and the remaining 3 were severely damaged. The Incheon had taken significant damage but remained functional, and the orbital defense network was still operational. Then human reinforcements arrived. The warships Dosan and Wonhyo dropped out of FTL and immediately moved to intercept the surviving Imperial vessels. They trapped Kexavar's damaged flagship between them, weapons powered and ready to fire. "Admiral Kexavar," came a transmission from the Dosan. "This is Commander Taman. You are ordered to power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Kexavar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. He had come here with overwhelming force to destroy a primitive colony. Instead, he had lost most of his fleet and was now facing capture by the very species he had tried to eliminate. "Power down weapons," he said quietly. "All ships stand down." The aftermath of the Battle of New Jeju spread across the galactic information networks faster than anyone expected. Multiple species had monitoring stations in nearby systems and had detected the energy signatures of the battle. Within hours, footage of the engagement was circulating on public networks throughout the Empire and beyond. Species that had lived under Imperial rule for generations watched in amazement as humans defeated an Imperial admiral in open combat. The footage showed human tactics, human weapons, and most importantly, human victory. The Galactic Empire's reputation for invincibility had always been its greatest asset. Now that reputation was shattered. Independent worlds started making quiet contact with human representatives. If humanity could defeat Imperial fleets, they could provide real protection, not just empty promises. Trade delegations that had been considering human offers now signed agreements. Species that had never questioned Imperial authority began asking uncomfortable questions. In the High Council chamber, the debate ended. Councillor Vormak's call for war against humanity lost support, as members realized that such a war would be far more costly than anyone had predicted. Councillor Ralthi's proposal for peaceful coexistence gained support. But now it came from a position of necessity rather than idealism. Director Zalketh provided the final piece of analysis that changed everything. Admiral Keksevar's fleet was defeated by 1 frigate, 48 automated platforms, and 2 reinforcement ships. Humanity defended a single colony with minimal forces and inflicted massive casualties on an experienced Imperial officer. Now consider this. Humans have over 30 warships operational with more under construction. They have dozens of colonies, each likely protected by similar defensive networks, and they are actively forming alliances with other species. She paused to let the implication sink in. The Empire can wage war against humanity. We will probably win, but the cost will be measured in thousands of ships and millions of lives. And while we are fighting humans, our other enemies will take advantage of our distraction. The Empire could fracture. We could lose everything. The Council voted, not unanimously but with a clear majority. The Empire would pursue diplomatic relations with humanity. They would recognize human territorial claims in the regions humans had already colonized. They would establish formal first contact protocols and trade agreements. It was not the outcome that Councillor Vormak wanted. It was not the dominant position that the Empire was accustomed to. But it was survival. The Galactic Empire would adapt or die, and the Council chose adaptation. The message went out through official channels. Humanity was now recognized as a sovereign power with full rights under galactic law. The question of what to do with Admiral Keksevar remained unresolved, but that was a problem for diplomats to handle. In the human fleet, Admiral Yunji received the Empire's message with satisfaction, but not celebration. "We have achieved recognition," she told her staff, "but not acceptance." The Empire agreed to peace because war was too costly, not because they respect us. We must remain strong, remain vigilant, and prove that humanity deserves a place among the stars. The trial of Admiral Keksevar became a galactic event broadcast across hundreds of worlds. The Galactic Empire demanded his immediate return, claiming jurisdiction over their own military officers. Humanity refused, pointing out that Keksevar had committed an act of war against a sovereign human colony and would face justice under human law. The trial was held on New Jeju, the colony that Keksevar had tried to destroy. The venue was symbolic, showing the galaxy that humanity's laws applied equally to everyone, even defeated enemies. Prosecutor Sujin, a veteran attorney who had handled war crimes cases during Earth's unification period, presented evidence methodically and thoroughly. Admiral Keksevar attacked a civilian colony without provocation or declaration of war, Sujin stated clearly during opening arguments. His actions resulted in the deaths of 47 colonists who were killed when orbital facilities were destroyed. He commanded his forces to target population centers, not military installations. Under human law and under galactic conventions on warfare, these are war crimes. Defense Counsel Taiyang, appointed to ensure Keksevar received fair representation, argued that the admiral had been following what he believed were imperial interests. He had acted to protect the Empire from what he perceived as human expansion into imperial territory. The defense did not deny the facts but argued for understanding of Keksevar's motivations. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Witnesses testified about the attack, about the colony's peaceful nature, about the lack of warning before the Imperial fleet opened fire. Captain Bowman described the battle from the Inchun's perspective. Her testimony detailed and professional. Throughout the trial, Keksevar sat silently, watching the proceedings with an expression that mixed anger and confusion. He had expected to be executed immediately or imprisoned without trial. The idea that humans would give him attorneys, allow him to present a defense, and conduct a public trial according to established laws was incomprehensible to him. The galaxy watched every moment. For species living under imperial rule, the trial demonstrated something they had never seen: accountability for those in power. The Empire had always protected its own, even when they committed atrocities. Watching an Imperial admiral face real consequences for his actions was revolutionary. The verdict was guilty on all charges. The sentence was imprisonment for 20 years, with possibility of early release for good behavior. Many in the Empire expected execution, and the relatively lenient sentence surprised them. Humans explained that their justice system focused on rehabilitation and protecting society, not revenge. The trial had consequences far beyond one admiral's fate. 17 species formally petitioned to leave the Galactic Empire and join the newly formed Terran Coalition. This was unprecedented. Never in Imperial history had so many species simultaneously sought independence. The Terran Coalition was humanity's answer to the Empire's authoritarian structure. Each member species had equal representation on the Coalition Council. Decisions were made by majority vote, with no single species having veto power. Military forces remained under individual species control, but defensive pacts meant any attack on one member was treated as an attack on all. The Coalition offered something the Empire never had: genuine partnership. Smaller species were not tributaries or subjects. They were equals with the same rights and responsibilities as humanity itself. For species that had spent centuries under Imperial domination, this was attractive beyond measure. Not everyone in the Empire supported the changes happening around them. Councillor Vormak and his conservative faction argued that the Empire was showing weakness, that allowing species to leave without punishment would lead to total collapse. But they were increasingly isolated as other council members recognized the changing reality. Councillor Ralthi emerged as the leading voice for reform within the Empire. She argued that humanity had exposed flaws in the imperial system that needed addressing. If the Empire wanted to survive, it had to adapt. She proposed reforms: greater autonomy for member species, more transparent governance, accountability for military and political leaders. Director Zelketh provided support to these reform efforts, sharing intelligence that showed how many species were considering leaving the Empire. "We can fight to keep them," she told the Council, "or we can give them reasons to stay. Force maintains control in the short term. Genuine partnership builds loyalty that lasts." The reforms passed by narrow margins. The Empire began a slow transformation, loosening its grip on member species while trying to maintain cohesion. It was a difficult balance, and many conservatives predicted it would lead to disaster. But the alternative was watching the Empire fracture completely as more species joined the Terran Coalition. Meanwhile, humanity continued expanding. Survey teams explored new systems, identifying worlds suitable for colonization. Trade ships established routes connecting human colonies with coalition partners and even some imperial worlds. The human economy grew rapidly, fueled by new resources and trade relationships. 5 years after the first contact at the border station, the galaxy had transformed completely. The Terran Coalition included 47 member species, ranging from the powerful Talaran Republic to small species with just a few million citizens. Together, they represented a political and economic bloc that rivaled the Empire itself. Human technology had spread throughout civilized space. Their adaptive artificial intelligence systems, which helped rather than controlled, revolutionized computing across the galaxy. Their hybrid fusion antimatter power systems provided efficient energy generation. Their kinetic weapons forced a complete rethinking of defensive strategies and shield technology. The Empire endured, but it was changing. Reform movements gained strength, inspired by humanity's example of democratic governance and equal justice. Some imperial species remained loyal by choice rather than fear, appreciating the stability and infrastructure the Empire provided. Others stayed while pushing for greater autonomy and rights. On the border between Imperial and Coalition space, joint patrol vessels maintained order. These ships had mixed crews, Imperial and Coalition personnel working together to fight pirates and smugglers. It was an arrangement that would have seemed impossible just 5 years earlier. Commander Yule, who had first detected the human ship approaching Imperial space, now served aboard one such patrol vessel. His partner was Lieutenant Jisoo, a human tactical officer with 10 years of experience. They had been working together for 6 months and had developed genuine respect for each other. "Your coffee is terrible," Jisoo said one morning in the ship's mess hall, looking at the brown liquid Yule had prepared. "Your coffee is too strong," Yule replied, sipping the human-style brew Jisoo had made. "It tastes like fuel." "It will keep you awake," Jisoo countered with a smile. They bantered like old friends, the kind of casual interaction that would have been impossible during the tense days of first contact. Their ship, the Horizon Watch, represented the future that was slowly taking shape. Cooperation between former adversaries, working together for mutual benefit. The transformation was not complete or universal. There were still those in the Empire who hated humanity and wanted war. There were human extremists who believed humanity should dominate the galaxy. But they were minorities, growing smaller as practical cooperation proved more beneficial than theoretical hostility. Captain Minho, still commanding the Taijo, now led exploration missions into the galactic rim where unknown species and challenges awaited. His ship had been upgraded with technologies developed through human coalition cooperation, blending the best of multiple civilizations' innovations. Admiral Yunji had retired from active fleet command to become humanity's representative to the Coalition Council. She helped shape policies that governed dozens of species, always remembering the lessons learned during humanity's difficult entry into galactic politics. Strength mattered, but so did wisdom. Power without restraint led to tyranny. Rights without responsibilities led to chaos. On Earth, new ships launched every month from expanded orbital facilities. Each carried crews heading for distant stars, driven by humanity's endless desire to explore and expand. But they also carried diplomats, teachers, doctors, and engineers. Humanity was not just spreading through military might. They were building connections, sharing knowledge, and helping others. The question that had consumed the Galactic Empire 5 years ago had been answered. That strange vessel approaching Imperial space had indeed been a human warship, but it was also an explorer, a diplomat, and a harbinger of change. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy with superior firepower, though they possessed formidable weapons. They had not dominated through numbers, though their population grew rapidly. Instead, humanity changed the galaxy by refusing to accept that impossible meant anything. They had achieved faster than light travel centuries ahead of predictions. They had built warships that challenged the Empire's finest vessels. They had formed alliances and coalitions that reshaped galactic politics. They had demonstrated that there was more than one way to organize civilized species, more than one path to prosperity and peace. The Galactic Empire had panicked when that first human warship appeared because it represented something they had never faced. A species that evolved through constant struggle, that innovated relentlessly, that refused to submit to superior force, and that combined military capability with genuine idealism. 5 years later, the Empire had learned to work with humanity rather than against them. Some did so reluctantly, seeing cooperation as necessary for survival. Others did so enthusiastically, recognizing that humanity brought fresh perspectives to ancient problems. New ships continued launching from human worlds, heading toward the unknown regions where the galactic rim faded into unexplored space. Out there were new species to meet, new challenges to face, new problems to solve, and humanity was ready as they always had been, to reach for the stars and never stop reaching. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the Taijo, watching the stars stream past as the ship accelerated toward the galactic edge. His crew worked around him with practiced efficiency, a team that had been through battles and diplomatic negotiations, that had seen both the best and worst the galaxy had to offer. Course laid in, Navigator Soman reported. Estimated arrival at the Kepler sector in 4 days. Proceed, Minho ordered. The Taijo jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving known space behind and heading into the frontier. Behind them, the galaxy continued its transformation. The Empire reformed. The Coalition grew. Species that had never imagined freedom were building their own futures, and everywhere the influence of humanity spread, not through conquest but through the simple revolutionary idea that all species deserved respect, justice, and the chance to reach for their own stars. The galaxy would never be the same, and that, Captain Minho thought with satisfaction, was exactly as it should be. Humanity had not come to the stars to maintain the status quo. They had come to explore, to learn, to build, and to show the galaxy that change was not something to fear but something to embrace. The voyage continued, as humanity's voyages always would, into the vast unknown where new adventures and challenges waited. Because that was what humans did. They explored, they adapted, they overcame, and they never ever stopped reaching for something better. The galaxy had asked whether that could really be a human warship. Now it knew the answer. Yes, it was a warship. But it was also so much more.